Hey, hi, hello.
Little afternoon dance break.
Right?
Mhm.
Yes, I've been enjoying dancing throughout the day.
Right?
Mhm.
It's good. That was only about 40 seconds.
Right.
I'm trying to find that optimum time. Is it a
Mm,
minute? Is it 2 minutes? I mean, I think
mm,
any of it helps. Like the 30 seconds help, but a good minute to 2 minute song
mhm.
also seems to be just, I don't know.
You're
I don't
talking
know.
about for the intro or for a dance break?
For a dance break.
I try to so this is the way I do it, right? Again, just like the chapter, I set up a system, but then within that system, when I know it, I can have the freedom to do what I want, right? So what I try to do is set a song and then that's the dance break, the song. So the song might be 2 minutes and 15 seconds. It might be 6 minutes, you know. I might not dance through a whole 6-minute song. Zumba classes are long, right? They're an hour. They're definitely a workout for a reason. So I might shorten it, but I'm having fun this whole song. And that's how I think about it.
Right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, our intro song is technically 3 minutes and 10 seconds, but we
Okay.
usually average about 30, 40 seconds of intro.
Yeah,
So,
unless it's like the summit and then we dance a little longer. But no, I have
right.
not gotten to the end of the song and it's going to update soon. So things change. And that's what we've been talking about through this launch of the Women Connected in Wisdom Volume 2, talking about how things grow, you add more people on, things um, might look different in different seasons. And that's what I was thinking about too. It might depend on the day, right? When I do the dance break, how long I have. I might intentionally choose a shorter song. It might not be a time when I'm getting ready and I have an hour so I can pick whatever song and let it play to the end, you know?
Hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
What's been coming up for you? And we were just talking about it with Cecile, with us being the press and that being part of the difference between volume one and volume two and the process through doing it ourselves.
Oh, what has been coming up for me? That is a really interesting question,
Yeah.
with having a cold along this, right? I think there's more labor. Like, we talk about a book being like a baby, and there was definitely labor with volume one, even though we weren't the publishers, but,
Mhm.
definitely more for volume two as Connected in Wisdom Press. And
Yeah.
joy, but also I think we're still in the labor process a little. So
In the
I don't
middle of it. Yeah. Not a
or
little, we're in the middle of it.
I don't think the endorphins have quite kicked in,
I'm with
right?
you. Yeah.
So yeah, both my children, I had long labors.
Mhm.
And one ended up being a C-section, and then one ended up being a natural home birth.
Mhm.
And both, there was a lot of waiting. Like there was labor, there was resting, there was waiting, there was work. They both didn't go according to plan, right? And I just think about that in regards to life right now with almost everybody I know. The things, I mean, well, really, our entire world the past 3 years, right?
Mhm.
Because we had a major event that we did not anticipate in our lifetime. I know there were some people that did, but the majority of us until the
Who are
pandemic
those people?
hit, I think created the game pandemic, and I think
Right?
some of the scientists that were planning ahead of time for the vaccines and things like that. I
Right.
mean, I do know there were some people that knew it was a possibility and knew it was coming, but for the
Mhm.
majority of us,
Right.
we didn't really think about that in our lifetime, right?
Right.
And so I think our whole world has shifted. And I think, what does it mean to be well? What does it look like? How do we want to work? How do we want to be? What do we want to create? I know every generation and every person that is a seeker or thinking thinks about it at some point, but I think it's become more crucial, I think, the last couple of years with
Yeah.
so much grief and loss and so much happening around us. It's like, okay, what do we want our lives to look like? And
Right.
how can we have them be well?
Yes. And a lot of times, like you said, when it's forefront in the mind like that is when you start asking those questions. And that's
Mhm.
what I share about in my chapter about not being prepared, not having thought of all the details and realizing, oh, that was the serious conversation that you should have given more space to so that you can have life insurance, so that you can have more than the only scheduled 2 days off in the week didn't get an extra week off that, or an extra day off, or extra week would have been nice, but to have that built into the plan is why I'm excited to be talking about life and health insurance, right? I only have a few steps left, and that's part of what I've been working on in my intellectual wellness this year and throughout this process as well. And it's important, because we know grief and loss is going to happen, whether it's war around the world, things at home. That's part of the human condition. So if we can be as set up as possible to be able to give as much space for that grief, that's where I will want us to be, like how Eileen said, to enjoy the sickness. Even though not all of it is beautiful, not all of it is, oh, I'm getting so much from this. That's not how it always feels. But when you can say, hey, I'm glad I got to sit down though. This gave me the opportunity to spend time somewhere else where I wouldn't have given the space and intentionality had the details looked different. So that's what I love about what we do. Like we're talking about with the authors in volume 2, sharing resources and plugging people in when they need it so they can give space for the parts of the situation that are pulling more of them in that season.
Right? And if our listeners and watchers are like wondering, what are y'all doing here at 1 o'clock in the afternoon? Y'all come on
Yes.
at 5 o'clock Eastern time
Hmm.
on Wednesdays. Well, what we're doing today, y'all, is we have been popping up on different lives yesterday, today, probably tomorrow.
Yeah.
What we're doing is we are talking about Women Connected in Wisdom, Volume 2, Stories and Resources Rooted in the 8 Dimensions of Wellness, that is available in the ebook form right now on Amazon. It just was ready yesterday, and then tomorrow the paperback will be available, and shortly thereafter we'll have the audiobook. But right now we're excited. There's 22 ratings currently, so thank you for everybody who's bought it, who is looking to buy it. It's on
Yes.
sale for $1.99 right now. That price will not last long, and so get your copy. Let us know what you think about Volume 2. We've had some people that have read both Volume 1 and Volume 2, which is always delightful and exciting. And I was going to go down here because I don't think we had 22 reviews this morning. So our latest review that came in, they come in like a day or two, like Amazon has to approve them. So this one came in yesterday. It said, spiritual material wellness. This book is an extraordinarily gathering of a wide range of women's wisdom. I'm particularly focusing on Dr. Anna Gatman's chapter on spiritual material wellness, the best of both worlds. Perhaps it is enough to say that the entire section on spiritual wellness begins with a quote from Dr. Gottman's chapter. She is dealing with all too widespread phenomenon in our culture, examining how it is that children make sense of neglect and trauma. Simply put, they blame themselves for being unworthy. The point is that we are all carrying these feelings forward into adult life, simply assuming them to be true. Not only is this extremely painful, but we also deny ourselves everything that is positive in life by continuing to believe it. Dr. Gottman suggests that we can enter into this imaginal realm to retell this story. In doing so, we can build a bridge between the physical and spiritual realms that is profoundly healing. This, she says, should be our daily practice. Highly recommend.
Highly recommended. I do. I
Right?
second that.
That was a review from John Jackson. Thank you, John.
Yes. Thank you, John.
That was a really long review. That may have trouble getting in on our
That's okay.
graphics, but
Oh, no,
it
I
was
got you.
very well thought out.
So let's
So,
talk about it. Let's
yeah,
talk about the systems, right? Because this is the beauty of what we get to talk about, and how we are intentional about our personal wellness and how we take care of ourselves, but also how we take care of the business. And again, like I was talking about in the repeatable workflow that I talk about in the chapter, last time I did the graphics, that was a thing, right? Canva had this new feature where you could bulk upload the graphics. So I'm trying to learn this, right? Learning something for the first time. And then I finally got the spreadsheet downloaded. You can download it in Excel or a CSV file. So I did the CSV. And the thing is though, guys, if you want to use this feature on Canva, if you have a long review like this, right? If you're author or you're press and you have a long review like this, or anybody who has reviews and wants to use them in graphics, um, I minimize, or I have a maximum amount of content, excuse me, that I put in that cell, right, for the review. If I know it's going to be a certain length, then I do the second, third, fourth. One of our reviews has 7 um, rows right now. in the spreadsheet. And so that's going to be a seven graphic review. It might be longer than that. And so when I went this time to go bulk create it, even though I did better than I did the first time creating our 5-star graphics for our Amazon bestseller volume 1, the space still needs to be fixed. So you'll see some of the graphics, some of the reviews. I still need to go back and edit because of how much it is, but I'm definitely putting all of the review in there. So John, thank you for your review. We have one again that's longer than that one, and your words will be counted. We will put them up there, and you'll see them on the social media and all the different platforms. So if you've read it, you've reviewed it, make sure you come to our social medias, get plugged in with the authors in our platform so that everything you do, you can see, and you'll see it when we shout you out.
Right. I love that. Yeah, that's part of Women Connected in Wisdom. Like, if you're
Mhm.
connected to us, we're happy to shout out your work. We're happy to, if you've been a guest on our podcast or one of our authors,
Yeah.
we love sharing what you have coming up. Rayleigh, who is one of our authors for Volume 2, is
Yes.
collaborating with Dr. Cynthia Phelps, who's one of our authors from Volume 1, and they're putting on a retreat in a couple of weeks
Mhm.
in outside of Asheville in Black Rock Mountain. And so that's also fun to see those collaborations and things coming together
Yeah.
from community, like
Yeah.
who's where and how can you work together and what can you do to support each other. It's been
Right.
really beautiful, that
And
process.
what I love about it is not only volume 1 authors participating in volume 2 different ways, right? Because we have authors that came on, Cynthia Phelps. If you guys know her and notice her name, you'll see it when you get the book in the proofreader and the editor list, right? So even though she's not one of our authors this time, she's still involved. And what I love is that even if Rayleigh didn't have the opportunity and answer the call, how she talks about in her chapter, to be part of the book, they probably still would have been collaborating. But what I love about it is that they knew each other. They were working together, whatever their history is of collaborating, right? But they decided to also do it with us. Like, hey, you need to know about Women Connected in Wisdom. Like, you need to be part of this. I think this is what you're looking for. And I'm really excited that Cynthia felt that way when she spoke to Rayleigh and that Rayleigh was excited to join us.
Absolutely,
Yeah.
such a delight.
Yeah.
And I believe Rayleigh is our youngest author this
And I
go.
haven't I haven't followed up, but it's either me or her. Yeah.
Right, I think Rayleigh, well, I mean, we'd have to find it, but
I'm
I'm
interested.
right.
Yeah, I think she
And
might be.
right, and Eileen is our senior author this
Yes.
time, and so
Yes.
we have wisdom ranging from folks in their 20s to their 80s again,
Yes.
which
And
is
that's what
just
I
super
wanted.
delightful to me. When we were
Yes.
on that live earlier with Eileen, just,
Mhm.
bringing wisdom that just life brings when you've lived on this planet for 80 years, right?
Right?
And how powerful
Mhm.
that is.
And her
And then
birthday's coming up.
new wisdom that comes in with every generation. And
Right.
so, people in their 20s and 30s bringing a different viewpoint and a
Mhm.
different way of looking at things. So,
Right.
the thing I think about our books is there's
Mhm.
something for everybody in there.
Yeah.
So, you know,
And and so something for everybody in there, right? But also what we talk about, how much they intersect. I think that just like Cecile was saying, she got something from everybody when she read it, and everybody multiple times in different ways when she read different versions and read it different times, you know? So again, everybody's not for every person. Maybe somebody's story doesn't resonate. You know, we're talking about 5-star reviews. We did get the one 4-star review last time, and we were like, okay, we honor that voice too, you know, but it's not always in, oh, I love this so much. But I think that there definitely is something for everybody and everybody's story, and that we can honor the differences and celebrate the differences because we also see that there's so many similarities. And I don't think we can minimize that. Cynthia and I were talking about the different stages of life and the different decades, right? And in your 20s, you're finding yourself. In your 30s, you're doing this. In your 40s, you're doing this. Your 50s, you're doing this. In your 70s, you're doing this. And we know this because we have friends from very little kids to very, I don't know if you would say very old. I'm trying to take that out of my vocabulary, but older elders in the community, right? And so we have this range of friends. But what we also know when we're talking about the scope of the world and where we are is that not everybody gets to 80. You know, some young black boys, some young black girls are not expecting to live to 20, 25. So when you talk about 80 years old, that's not where, especially talking about insurance, when you're talking about mortality rates and morbidity, things that we measure in community and in nations and countries, right? We're not
Mhm.
getting to that age. So it's not, oh, when you're 70, it's also right now. We need wellness right now. We have to find our purpose in things right now. And again, not that, and I feel like that's where the hustle comes from. The internal pace, because we want to find those things. We do want to find our purpose. We want to find our community, but because we're told to do it a certain way. And that's what Anna's talking about. That's what the review is talking about, right? Being a YSL model, she comes up, she's beautiful, she's strutting, and people think she has it together and she's not okay because she's coming from a alcoholic family, coming from a different nation where things might not look as nice as America, where we get to fill bathtubs full of drinking water and sit in it with bubbles and Epsom salt and J-Lo glow. It's not like that everywhere. So for her to go get her PhD and to be writing books and it still be beautiful, that's not discounted. That's why I love writing both about physical wellness and intellectual wellness, because it's great to look nice, but are you really okay? Are you taken care of? Do you have what you need? And so when we talk about, and I'll wrap with this, we can keep going. When we talk about grief in life in different parts of the world in different seasons, I think about the quote, it's not your fault you were hurt, but it's your responsibility to heal, right?
Mhm.
And so those of us intentionally looking for the healing and intentional wellness, that's what Women Connected in Wisdom is about. Hey, I'm hurt here. Anna was in a therapy session looking for a way to mend the hurt, and she found that, and she's sharing that. And that's what our stories are about. This is what was going on, and this is how I got better.
Yeah, we were, on that live earlier today, and when Eileen was speaking, because
Mm-hmm.
she's a clinical therapist, and
Mm-hmm.
I was thinking back through our authors, volume one and volume two. We have a lot of people that are either trained as clinical therapists or have practiced as clinical therapists or
Mm-hmm.
psychologists or,
Mm-hmm.
you know, and we do combine some of the traditional with the holistic, some of the, there's all different kinds of voices come,
Absolutely.
and we're not saying one is better than the other, or but what I am noticing with every writer we have, and
Mm-hmm.
almost I would say every guest that comes on our podcast, is
Is what?
they're people doing the work. Like, they are
Right.
people seeking wellness and looking for techniques and looking for tools, and saying, this worked for me. And I'm always a little, I'm skeptical anytime somebody
Mm-hmm.
says, "Oh, this is the only way," because I
Right.
think there are so many ways to reach health and spirit and all kinds of all kinds of things in that direction.
I hear
But
you.
that's what I love about our compilation books, because we're not saying, there's only one way to the eight dimensions of wellness. There's multiple ways, there's multiple tools, there's resources,
Yes.
um, and we are uplifting the women's voices who we've connected with, who are making a difference in the world. Right?
Yeah.
They are having impact. They are facilitating change. They are the change makers for themselves, for their families, for their communities, and they found some things that work for them. And hopefully it'll work for you too, right?
Right.
Um, that's what, if their stories resonate with you. If you, I mean, I think about that we've interviewed over 100 people on the podcast the last couple of years, and if anybody were to go back and look at all our show notes, and we're putting it together for a resource library, but
Yeah.
there are hundreds. I don't know if we're
Mhm.
at the thousands yet, but we might
No.
be, because we have extensive show
Yeah. That's true. It's really a hesitation. We will have to make sure that we know the number. Yeah.
links and resources to
It's a
books
good thing.
and podcasts and websites and classes, and you know I think that is one of the things that is the beauty of the time we live in, right?
Mm.
Is the internet, and the fact that there are resources at our fingertips. And I know we talked about this before with Melody LeBaron, who's one of our authors from volume one,
Yes.
about different styles of learning and
Mhm.
different styles of retrieval, right?
Mhm.
And one of the things I think about our platform being multidimensional, just not the eight dimensions of wellness, but it's also multidimensional if you are an auditory learner. We've got
Mhm.
all podcasts, we're about to have the two audiobooks.
Yes.
If you are a visual learner, we
Mhm.
have the beautiful graphics that you make, and we have the books that are coming out, right?
Yes,
If
thank
you're
you.
a kinesthetic learner, you can dance with us. You can be involved in the workshops that are embodied that we talk about on the regular basis.
Mhm.
So there's a little, and we know you said it earlier, we're not for everybody, right? we
Right.
are we are but we are for a lot of people. And if you have connected with us, welcome. If you are new to us,
Welcome.
welcome. If
Yes.
you've been with us through volume 1 and volume 2 and almost 3
Hey.
years of podcast, hey.
Right. Right. Yes. I was thinking about that with A. Foster. I'm pretty sure she was here for volume 1, and she was looking for volume 2, and she's looking for the audiobook, so I see you, A.
Right.
Foster. Yeah.
We're coming, A. Foster.
Yeah, we're on the way.
Yeah, it has been it has definitely been a journey. And
Mhm.
as we build our team and we make different decisions, like
Yeah.
figuring out, like, we have a lot of content, y'all, and how to best get it to you and how to best make it accessible, even if you missed this episode, or even if you missed
Right.
this, if you really resonated with
Mhm.
one of our authors, like Eileen Dillon, how can you
Yeah.
connect with her and figure out about anger? Like, she does some powerful work. Her chapter is about anger and how do you address that.
Mhm.
And I don't lead with anger. It's never been my thing, but I have worked with people who really struggle with anger. And
Mhm.
Eileen has some very practical, doable, almost instantaneously tips and tricks and tools for managing anger,
Yeah.
which is important,
It's
because
very
if
important.
not managed well, it can be destructive, either internally or externally.
Mhm. And I
So
used to have a huge anger problem, and it's funny because I was a little kid. I said, "Oh, this not gonna work. This is not the type of person I wanna be." You know? And, most people would be surprised at that now. They might see it or guess that they don't wanna see me upset, but usually most people say they've "Shannon, I've never seen you upset." And I'm like, "Good. I try not to be that version of myself."
my oldest daughter
Yeah.
used to like to throw things,
Mhm.
and I was never a thrower. Like, it
Mhm.
wasn't my that wasn't my. I'm much more laid back. But I called my sister
Yeah.
because my sister had anger issues when she was younger, and she used
Mhm.
to throw stuff. And
Mhm.
I'm like, "How did you break the habit of
Mhm.
throwing stuff?" And
Mhm.
she said, "I bought my first house, and I didn't want to destroy it." So
Mhm.
she threw toilet paper rolls. She
Mm.
still gave in to the impulse to throw things, but she threw toilet paper rolls. So
Okay.
that is how I got my oldest daughter when she was younger to quit throwing stuff, because I offered her things to throw. I'm like,
Yeah.
"Oh, you need to throw something? You're
Yeah.
upset? Here,
Yeah.
throw this." And then that took part of the, that took
Yeah.
shock and awe out of it, because it
I
was like,
understand.
"You're allowed to throw this."
Hello. And there are break rooms and stuff. So that's one thing I was going to take my staff to. And I saw this actually talking about volume 1 authors. It was on Shannon Ivy's story, right? And there was this layout of a house, and it was different rooms. It was like a workout room, and one of the rooms that I hadn't ever thought about being in my dream home was a room to go scream and break stuff in. I said, a space to break stuff in at the house. Okay. Like whatever works for people. But then maybe do you need a budget for I guess you would need a budget for the stuff that you're gonna break, you know? Yeah.
Well, when my kids were little, we still had phone books. Like,
Mhm.
we still had those thick phone books that they would
Mhm.
drop off at your house, once a year, maybe twice a year. I can't even remember now. It's
Yellow
been
pages, yeah.
pages,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
Right? And so that was something to rip and tear. Like,
Mm,
when I was first getting trained as a clinical therapist, that's what,
yeah.
we would talk about those corners, like for
Mhm.
teachers or for kids that were, and that would be something that was a free resource. It's not really available anymore.
Mhm.
But it was so thick and it was so hard, it gave away. And I mean, I
Mhm.
think that, what all of our authors talk about at some point or another, or reference it in some way,
Mhm.
is being in touch with your body and your emotions and your feelings, and that's allowed, right? Not
Mhm.
only is it allowed, it's encouraged and it's
Yes.
healthy.
Mhm.
And sometimes, we have to delay it because of life or what we're handling, but you don't
Mhm.
delay it too long, that you want to really be able to process.
Right, and I think that when you are actively saying, "Hey, let's have this wait," to yourself, right, you're still acknowledging it. right?
right.
Like we've talked about children and everything. If I'm having a conversation and I have my god kids over here and we're on live, if I said, "Excuse me a moment," they need to wait, and then you and I can finish it. And so sometimes, absolutely, depending on the context, especially as business owners, even leaders, moms, anything, that's a thing that we deal with sometimes. But I think that acknowledging that you're saying, "Hey, I see it. Let's look at that at this time," and if you give yourself a time, giving yourself those still points where you can trust that you're going to get back to it. We'll look at this tonight before I go to sleep. Then I'm going to use my Shalo Glow and see where the bruise is. My body feels better because it was acknowledged.
Yeah, I don't ever look at things right before I go to sleep because I'm such a
Mhm.
morning person.
Mm,
I'm the opposite of that. I'm like,
that
I'll look at
makes
that when I
sense.
wake
Mm,
up.
that makes
Just because
sense.
my brain works so much better in the
Mm,
mornings, like before
mhm,
dawn and things like that. But I think
mhm,
that's, we talk about that too. We've talked about it on the podcast. Some of our authors reference it, is like knowing yourself,
mhm.
like knowing your body and what works for you, because
Exactly.
so many times I think we're told, oh, we should do it this way, or it's
Mhm.
supposed to be this way, or and really it's individual. Like,
Right.
what is our inner authority about this? What do we
Yes.
mean? And yeah, it's yeah, so much swirling.
Right. And for me, what comes up when you say that is that what's the end goal, right? Me loving psychology and seeing that there were so many people who knew so many people, had big families, and when people pass away, you find out that you don't know that person, right? And that's rampant a lot of different places. It can be just knowing that. What did you say? What did it make me think of? You said knowing yourself and knowing when things work. I lost my
Mhm.
point.
That's okay.
That's okay.
Yep. We're going to be back at 5 o'clock today.
Yeah, we
We're
are.
going to have episode 135.
Yes.
135. Boy,
Hmm.
after 100, I'm all like, oh, okay, whatever. We're so. But today we'll be recording episode 135 with a
Yes.
variety of authors
Mm.
from Women Connected Wisdom Volume 2. So
Yeah.
we hope you join us. We hope you've gotten your book, peeked at it a little bit. Jump on live and ask our authors questions, or if it's about their chapter, or if it's about becoming an author, because a lot of our authors are first time authors. This is their first time to publish, or we have some that are repeats. We a
That's a
very
good point.
interesting thing happening this book. We have
What?
three authors that are publishing simultaneously at the same, like with other, one author's first time author. I mean, two of them maybe first time authors, but they have two publications coming out at the same time. Like,
Hmm.
just in the energy, like it's like, oh, it's time to write. It's time to
Yes.
get it out there. It's time for the permanence, I think, in some ways,
Mm.
of
What do
your.
you mean?
Well,
Of
I
your
think
wisdom?
about books being more permanent than
Mhm.
other forms of media sometimes. Like, even as I say that, I'm like, well, with social media, everything's kind of permanent anymore. But books have, and maybe it's just, we talked about earlier about being nerds, but being able to touch something and
Mhm.
see it, and has a
No,
different kind of permanence for me.
I think you're right. And we've been watching this show about the different abandoned sites around the world, right? And one thing that archaeologists are looking for when they're looking for proof of civilization is writings. They're like, where are their writings? I said, yep, the writings. So depending on what situation would happen, books could get messed up, of course, and that's a pro to technology to a certain extent. But you're not wrong about the permanence of it, especially with the way America operates off of contracts and things written down is very important. So I think it's valid. And I think this was my point earlier. I love that, yes, everybody has their own different resources. Did I lose it again? I think I lost it again.
I think it's supposed to come out at 5 o'clock
And
today.
I've literally been thinking that. I said, maybe do it on the podcast. So maybe that's, you said the voice in the back seat. For me, it is the Holy Spirit. Holy Spirit's like, maybe at 5 o'clock.
five
So I
o'clock.
have my pen, we have our paper, and we will write it down when it comes back. But
All
it's been
right.
a pleasure doing this with all of the ladies, doing this with you, and bringing our strengths and weaknesses to the table and getting the resources that we need, getting the people, our listeners and readers connected to everything that they need to be well, wise, and whole in this season that we're going through.
right? All
Yes.
right, I'll see you at 5 o'clock.
Okay. Peace.
Live 5 Eastern time. We'll be back.
Yes. See you guys soon.